Hello, ladies and gents. This is Jamie Blosman, the host of the Femcanic Garage podcast. Welcome to the 5-part series of the dirty little secrets in the automotive and skilled trades industries. This blog series is brought to you by Chasidy Sisk Writing and Communication and Femcanic Garage. We have interviewed industry experts on topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're excited to share their knowledge and experience with all of you. Now let's get started. Hello everyone, this is Jamie B coming to you, and welcome to the dirty little secrets of the automotive and skilled trades industries. What are we doing right now? We have 3 brave gentlemen willing to sit down with me and have an open conversation about some of the quotes that are in the blog series that we launched last year for Women's History Month. And first and foremost, I want to thank all 3 of you for being willing to, 1, give us a little bit of your time, and 2, to be open about and have an open conversation about some of these topics. So first of all, I just want to say thank you very much, gentlemen. I truly appreciate you giving the time for this. I do want to cover a few things just so that the listeners and or watchers understand what this is and what it is not. What this is are 4 individuals having an open conversation where we are going to read one quote that we collected from women anonymously and ask them about experiences, both positive and negative, that they have had in the automotive and skilled trades industries. And we took those quotes and we provided each of the gentlemen a list of quotes that they could pick from. And there's going to be 2 that I'm going to read out loud, and then we'll have an open discussion about those quotes and the experiences that those women had. That's what this is. What this is not a male bashing, bra burning thing. This is about having adult, mature conversations about opportunities that maybe we could improve in our industry to make it more inviting for everyone. Kevin, you're in the hot seat next for part 4. Which quote did you choose, my friend?
All right. So my quote is going to be, my tech school instructor, who was also a manager at a big local collision shop, told me in front of my classmates I'd never hire a woman, regardless of her talents, because of the distraction it would cause and the possibility of a lawsuit. There have been many others, but that one stung the most because it almost made me quit. I'm glad I didn't. I've been doing this for 10 years now. So my thoughts on that are, number 1, the manager is probably not there anymore, right? Because if somebody of that caliber is going to be at that kind of position in a business, they're probably not there anymore. Because that's just one instance where that person was talking down. So I don't think that, again, your mentor should be your mentor, somebody to look up to. And I think this is just a person who didn't know which direction to go, and it's unfortunate they had to talk to their student that way. So, I just don't. I hope that person stayed, and I'm glad that person stayed and didn't quit, and is enjoying life beyond that school instructor, because that was a small part of her career.
What do you think about what he said?
Oh, I think it's just not right. It's not right. So he said he'd never hire a woman regardless of her talents because of the distraction. So I had a conversation with a good friend of mine this week about that. We were kind of going over this in my shop. I have prominently a male shop, and I've got friends who were bringing their cars to me this week, and we were all kind of reading. They were like, "What's this?" And told them about the project. So they were very interested. This is the quote that stood out to me. Now, a friend of mine who works for a how do I say it, like a car customization shop. They are hiring females. They're trying to, as many as they can get in. They're training them. They're doing it. It's a male environment. It's when guys just crack jokes with each other and just have a good time with each other. They go out for beers afterwards. They go out for beers with HR, right? But there's a fine line, because what they're telling me is it's all banter in the shop. But the second it gets too strong, they are worried that she's going to file a suit of whatever, right? Of harassment, of impropriety. I don't know, but there's a fine line. It's real because they can dish it out in the shop, but if one thing clicks wrong, they're worried that she's going to file a suit back. They're still going to hire girls. They're still going to train girls, and I kind of get where they're coming from, but it's still scary to me that that's the world we're in right now because I don't agree with it. Right? If you're in a shop, it's a family environment. We're all going to give each other a hard time. This is what we do, but you shouldn't have to think in the back of your mind, are you gonna sue over this, right? So does any of that make sense? Because I was kind of a lot of different directions right there.
I'll weigh in here in just a second, Kevin.
Yeah.
I want to give the three of you. Burl, your thoughts?
Um, well, my thoughts towards the instructor is that's a couple of times we've heard about instructors. I'm just shocked that they even have a job doing that, to be honest with you.
You and
Um,
me both. When I read through these, I struggled with that the
I
most,
mean,
probably.
if you don't have students, you don't have an instructor position, so it's just, again, I think it speaks to the character, of that individual, so I don't really have a lot of words for it other than say that person's got problems. Um, So yeah, like everybody else is saying, I hope she stuck it out there. And to Kevin's point too about the friends that've got the customization business, and I've had, over the years, I've been in business now for 25 years. Like I said, I've got over 70 employees. I've got 5 different shops, and you run across pretty much everything. And I've really only had to deal with this situation, I think once. It just so happened it was a female and wasn't performing properly, and she made up a lot of things that weren't true, as far as why she got let go or different. It was pretty sad, but that there again, that's an individual doing that. So a male could do the same thing. Female
It'd
could
just
do
be a
it as
different
well.
topic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it just comes down to the individual, I think. I just think at the end of the day, this career field. And Brian, the point you made earlier, yeah, maybe you should say something, and it's not just acceptable to say, okay, people act that way. I absolutely agree. You should call people out on that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still there's just individuals that are going to be that way. But it's not just, and from my perspective, it's not just because it's a woman. I hear guys talking about other guys, that can't perform this, or you're whatever. You're never going to learn how to do this. But I do think that obviously it's predominantly a larger issue with with women, obviously. But I just go back to the fact that there's going to be a lot of opportunities out there right now to change the culture. And a lot of the folks that are saying this, whether it's an instructor, whether it's a manager or whatever, they need women. This industry needs more women in the industry, and they're going to have to learn. They're going to have to change. They're going to learn to have to change.
Brian?
Yeah, thanks, bro. And then I agree. Like, it's a lot of these things are like kind of individual things that could have applied to like a dude or a chick. A lot of them, but like you said, it's more about the fact that it's proportionally leaning a lot more against females. Uh, so back to I guess it was a two-part thing. Like the back to the instructor part, and we're hearing about so many of these instructors. I'm biased a little bit, but I have no doubt that they still have their jobs and they're fine, because that story about the girl at the engineering school, like, I know for a fact that specific instructor, he's had multiple complaints filed against him from students, like, over years, and they never did anything about it. And last I heard, like 3 years ago, they were like forming something to like combat that. I have no idea what that means, or if they did anything about it. So my best guess is that guy still has his tenure or whatever, and he's fine. I'm guessing, because I don't know if maybe it'll finally catch up to you after a certain number of years. But for the short first years, I feel like it seems to me like most decision makers at the top, if they see that most complaints are from females, which is going to be a small number compared to like the rest of the male students or whatever, it's kind of like, whatever, not a big deal, don't give a shit. That's kind of what I'm sensing. So I'm never
Just because of
surprised to see.
volume? Is that what you're getting at, Brian? Because of
What's that?
volume? Because of volume, there's just statistically less women, which
Yeah,
means less complaints, just a complaint volume perspective.
possibly. It's also possible they just see female and give less of a shit, but that's just my assumption. I could be wrong, but my point is, I'm never surprised to hear about these instructors and that they're always still doing fine, you know?
Mm,
And
wow.
then, but the second thing I wanted to talk about was that the custom shop that you were talking about, because that I feel like that kind of depends on exactly what the conversation was, like exactly where they were going, because like Burl was saying, there are people out there that are super sue happy, you know, like that's the world we live in. You can get sued for anything, and we're always kind of walking on eggshells. Like I get that, but I think this. I don't know if this is a situation in that custom shop, but I there is also the stigma that when you're a female, you're kind of it's more of a default that you get assumed that you might sue for anything, you know. Whereas like a dude, you know, you got to do a lot more work to be portrayed as like this fragile person who's gonna sue for anything. Because my opinion is like it doesn't matter if you're a dude or a chick. Like if you have a limit that you're uncomfortable with, like that's your limit. Like you don't have to explain it to anyone, you know.
That's fair.
So I don't know if they had
It's
a discussion like, hey, is this too much? Is there a line? You know, because like maybe you have a line, and I think it's not a big deal at all, but I shouldn't give a shit if that's your line. I should respect it, regardless of whether you're a dude or chick. You know,
and
I
I
feel
think
like
there's something to be said around that where it's have a conversation. You don't
yeah,
just jump to
conversation.
that, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. So to your point, Kevin, instead of I I I'm I secretly was hoping you would pick that quote. I didn't wanna, like, push anyone. I stayed completely out of it, but I am so glad that you picked that quote because that is the eh, that is kind of like the unspoken fear that every shop owner has. And if they said that it's not a fear of theirs, they're lying. They are lying. It is a fear out there, and it goes back to why we're doing these blog posts is to talk about the shit that everyone's afraid to talk about.
But there's certain people that could take it different than each other, right? So one of my
Absolutely.
shops I go to, family shop, the banter's unreal. Like it's some weird shit, right? And we have fun. And we just but it's a bunch of guys and then there's a couple girls in the front office that they talk amongst themselves about the management crew and then everybody else and then some of the managers might talk shit about them, but it's all in fun. And they've
Yeah.
all been working there for 30 years. They all know each other and we go to baseball games together. Like, we do events together. We do our holiday parties together. And it's if there was a new person that would enter our shop and hear the stuff that we say to each other because we've known each other for years, it would be uncomfortable and everybody kind of quiets down until they get to be used to how we all are because it's in every workplace, not just in the auto trade. It's every trade you're going to have some kind of banter. So that person has to feel comfortable at that shop, and if it's not comfortable, then there's the conversation. That's what people got to have that conversation and say, hey, let's whoa, put the brakes on. It's cool to a
That's the
point.
key, Kevin.
Yeah.
And I think everyone wants this like black and white formula of say this, don't say
Nah,
this,
it
do
never
this,
is.
don't do that. And the thing is I my closest friends growing up were guys. I lived with my dad and my brother. I've my greatest mentors and supporters have been men. And I'm with you, Kevin.
Mm,
If I could dish it out with the best of them,
mhm.
right? I would. You want to roast, dude?
Right.
I would win shit, right?
Yeah.
So the point that I'm getting at is that we want this black and white answer around that. And Brian, this is what you're getting at too. This is about relationships, right?
Yes.
Not intimate relationships. It's work relationships. It's building those friendships and relationships and having mutual respect between one another And it truly is that simple.
Yes.
Like, the stuff that I would say to some of my guy friends, I'm pretty sure I would make a lot of guys blush.
But you're not going to say
Right?
it to all of them. You're going to say it to some of them.
Not to all of them.
That's
That's
it.
right.
So, like, I've
And
got my
that's the
shop that
key.
is hardcore crazy, but they're great and they've been around forever. Then I go to another shop and it's the same family atmosphere, but so 180.
But they have mutual respect for
Yes.
each other. That's the key.
Absolutely.
You can have
100% they do.
And the
So,
reality is there is clear differences between men and women. And we can have a lot of fun back and forth banter,
yes.
highlighting and acknowledging those differences, and it be fun. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be heavy.
No.
The problem is that there's some situations, to your point, Brian, where if it gets to a point, it is the female's responsibility, and not just female, I would say anyone. It is every human's responsibility to teach the people around them how they want to be treated, right? How they want to be talked to, how, like, it's each of our responsibility to do that, right?
Yeah.
You can't go getting pissed off at people saying they disrespect me when you never even had a conversation with them to say, hey, you know what? I'm all about having fun, but that one crossed the line. You know what I mean? Don't say that again. And that's it. Now, if that person ignores that request, to your point, Brian, right? I've done my job. I've done my job in communicating. I think that's where I have a hard time with a lot of this, is that it's a two-way street. I learned this from in the interview with Petra Schroeder. She is amazing, the collisionista. She worked for DuPont for over 30 years, just a wealth of knowledge, an amazing woman. And she also said, ladies, if there's something you're uncomfortable with, you got to communicate it. You can't just run off and say that you weren't treated well when you didn't even communicate and say, you know what, I'm not cool with that, and then just get pissed off about it. You have the conversation, and then if that's ignored, then we're talking about something different, right? And that's where, gosh, I've been part of some conversations, Kevin, that in any HR book would be considered very inappropriate. And
Yeah.
I had a blast in the conversation.
But like
right?
on the other side of that conversation thing is I've been around plenty of times if we've had contractors at my house and they're trying to tell me something and my wife is standing right next to me and they're not talking to her at all. They're not engaging in her at all. And she's like, I'm right here. You can talk to me. I could understand how to hang a window, or I could understand where the drywall is going to go. I get it, right? So now when
I want to high five your wife.
well,
I
yeah,
completely
it's
understand.
amazing, right? To listen. Remember what we were talking, girl brain, male brain, right? But when I'm selling my tools now to people, I'm talking to everybody. I don't care if it's the husband, wife, the daughter, the son. I don't care who it is. Everybody's getting a piece of my attention because that's what it is. It's the conversation. It's getting everybody involved together, so they all are on the same playing field. It's not I'm going to tell the guy how to take a tire off a car because he knows how to do it. He might not do it. It might be the wife's job to go out and do it, especially using my tool. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like everybody needs
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
part of the conversation.
And I think that that's a brilliant takeaway for any business owner. That I literally just said that I'm redoing, not redoing. I built my podcast room here, and I'm putting some carpet down, and I needed carpet glue. Found some carpet glue off of Facebook Marketplace. Interacted with the guy. He interacted with me, and I had to go pick it up at a warehouse. So I asked my dad to ride with me. As a woman, I'm not okay going to a warehouse by myself to
Right.
pick something up. So my dad rode with me, and he didn't even talk to me. I'm the one with the money literally in hand, and he still did not talk to me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Don't agree
Like,
with it.
it's like, I was just cracking up. And my dad was oblivious. I'm like, did you even notice that, Dad? No. How did you not notice that? Like,
Right.
seriously. I was cracking up. But yes, great points. Thanks for watching. By being open to learning more about these topics, you are fueling a movement that creates a safer and more inclusive environment for women in our industry. And for that, we thank you. It's up to all of us to keep this conversation alive. The only way to rid the industry of the darkness is to shine light on it. The entire 5-part blog series of the dirty little secrets of the automotive and skilled trades industries can be found on ChasidyRaySisk.com and Femcanic.com. Until next time, my friends.